All right, get ready for some ancient wisdom. It's surprisingly relevant, I think, to our modern lives. Today, we're diving into the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita,
Okay.
and we're going to see what it has to say about life and death and happiness.
Right?
No need to be a philosophy expert or anything like that for this one.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how these ideas, how much they resonate, even if you've never even heard of the Bhagavad Gita before.
It's a text that's been pondered for centuries, but it's full of practical advice for anyone seeking a more fulfilling life, really.
Yeah, and one of the things that jumped out at me was this idea that lamenting over suffering,
Right.
feeling excessive pity or grief might actually be rooted in ignorance. Just like imagine seeing a man drowning.
Okay.
Would you cry for his wet clothes or focused on saving the person inside?
That's a powerful image the lecture uses to illustrate the point.
Mm-hmm.
The Bhagavad Gita encourages us to shift our focus from the temporary body to the eternal soul.
Okay.
It's not about becoming cold-hearted,
Right.
but understanding that the body is just a temporary vessel for the soul,
Mm-hmm.
like a set of clothes we eventually discard.
Okay, that makes sense. So for these eternal souls, like, why do we get so caught up in the ups and downs of life?
Yeah.
Why all the stress about deadlines and that parking ticket I got this morning?
Well, that's where the concept of tapasya comes in. The lecture emphasizes that willingly enduring hardship, not in a self-punishing way, but in a way that stretches us beyond our comfort zones, can actually lead to spiritual purification and ultimately a deeper experience of joy.
Wait, so you're saying discomfort can lead to pleasure? That seems a little counterintuitive.
Think of it this way. Athletes push their bodies to the limit to achieve greatness.
Mm.
People fast for religious or health reasons and often experience clarity and a spiritual connection. Even giving up that extra glass of wine at night, even if it's comfortable, can bring greater peace of mind. These are all examples of tapasya.
So it's about choosing discomfort in the short term for a greater, more lasting form of happiness. Like, next time I'm tempted to hit snooze, remembering that choosing the momentary discomfort of getting up could actually lead to a more productive and fulfilling day.
Exactly. It's a shift in perspective, realizing that true fulfillment comes from a deeper place within, not just chasing external comforts.
All right, that's pretty profound. Now, the lecture also stressed the importance of understanding the nature of God, or Bhagavan, before trying to solve life's problems.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for me?
Sure. The term Bhagavan, in Sanskrit, signifies someone possessing 6 opulences in full.
Okay.
Beauty, wisdom, power, strength, fame, and renunciation. Now, no human can claim to fully embody all of these,
Right.
but understanding these qualities in their complete form helps us grasp the true nature of the divine.
So it's like if you wanted to understand gold, you wouldn't just look at a tiny flake.
Right.
You'd want to see, a solid gold bar to get the full picture.
Precisely. And in the same way, understanding the complete opulence of Bhagavan helps us move beyond limited human ideas of what God is.
Now, this next part is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The Bhagavad Gita actually says that we as souls, we never truly die. There's a verse that says, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be."
Whoa. Right. That's a big one to wrap our heads around. The lecture explains that while the body goes through changes,
Yeah.
from childhood to youth to old age and eventually decay, the soul is eternal. It simply moves from one body to another at death.
So this is making me think about those awkward childhood photos we all have, We might cringe a little, but we don't actually mourn that version of ourselves.
Right.
It's part of who we are, but not the whole story. Yes. Is that kind of what the Bhagavad Gita is saying about the body and soul?
It's a good analogy. The idea is to shift our perspective,
Okay.
to recognize that our true identity is beyond the physical form.
Okay, so if the soul is the reality and the body is just this temporary home, how do we navigate this world of illusions? How do we even know what's real?
That's a great question. The lecture offers another helpful image.
Okay.
Imagine seeing a mirage of water in the desert. It looks real, but it lacks the key element of endurance.
So are you saying things that don't last are essentially illusions?
Think about how much energy we put into possessions, status, even relationships that ultimately fade away. The Bhagavad Gita encourages us to direct our attention to what's eternal and unchanging, the soul.
All right, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but how do we actually cultivate that awareness? Is that where this concept of immortality comes in?
Exactly. The Bhagavad Gita offers a path to achieving immortality, not in the sense of living forever in this body, but by transcending the cycle of birth and death altogether.
But how do we break free from that cycle?
It's about understanding that true happiness comes from inner peace, not just external circumstances. This peace is cultivated through spiritual practices like yoga and meditation, and it helps us move beyond the influence of what the Bhagavad Gita calls the three modes of material nature.
3 modes. Hold on, what are those?
They're described as goodness, passion, and ignorance.
All right.
These are essentially forces that affect our thoughts, actions, and perceptions, keeping us bound to the cycle of birth and death.
Well, so by transcending these modes, we break free.
Exactly.
This is getting fascinating, but I have to ask, if we're not supposed to be attached to the material world, how do we deal with our responsibilities in this life? I mean, Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita is facing a war against his own family.
Right.
He's torn between duty and compassion. How do we navigate that?
That's where the concept of dharma comes in. It's often translated as duty, but it's a much richer concept. Dharma is about acting in alignment with one's true nature and with universal principles. It's like fire. Its dharma is to be hot.
Okay.
A warrior's dharma is to protect the righteous, even when it involves difficult choices.
So how do we figure out our own dharma? I mean, it's not like there's a handbook for that.
It's about introspection, about figuring out your unique skills and talents. It's about asking yourself, how can I use what I have to contribute to the world in a way that feels genuine, in a way that feels truly like me?
Wow, that makes me think about all the times I've felt conflicted, torn between what I think I should be doing and what actually feels right deep down.
And the Bhagavad Gita offers guidance for navigating those dilemmas. It introduces this concept of Buddha Yoga, or the yoga of intelligence, which gives us a framework for acting with detachment from the results of our actions.
Buddha Yoga, the yoga of intelligence. Okay, that sounds intriguing, but what does that actually look like in practice? I'm having trouble picturing it.
Imagine a heart surgeon,
Okay.
totally focused on performing a complex operation. They're not worried about whether they'll be praised or blamed for the outcome. Their entire focus is on the task at hand. That's Buddha Yoga in action.
So it's about doing what needs to be done without getting caught up in the outcome.
Exactly.
But does that mean we shouldn't care about our work, our relationships, our contributions to the world? That seems kind of bleak.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that the fruits of our actions don't ultimately belong to us. You know that analogy of the worker assembling a product in a factory?
Right, right,
They don't get to keep it. It belongs to the factory owner.
right.
We're like those workers, equipped with our bodies, intelligence, and resources to create things in this world. But the ultimate owner of those creations is God, or Bhagavan.
Okay, so does that mean we shouldn't expect to get paid for our work? That doesn't sound very practical.
We're entitled to what we need to sustain ourselves.
Right.
But true fulfillment comes from offering the surplus back to the source. It's about recognizing that our work, our relationships, even our lives are gifts. Offering them back in service to something greater is the ultimate act of gratitude.
That's a pretty radical way of looking at things.
It is.
But I see where you're going with this. It's like we're channels for something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And when we align ourselves with that greater purpose, we tap into a source of energy and inspiration that's far more fulfilling than anything the material world can offer.
So how do we put this into practice? How do we offer the fruits of our actions back to the divine? Does that mean we have to join a monastery or something?
Not necessarily. The Bhagavad Gita offers a variety of practices, including meditation, selfless service, and cultivating a mindset of devotion and surrender. It also uses vivid analogies like a tortoise retracting its limbs into its shell to illustrate how we can control our senses.
Oh yeah, the tortoise analogy. It's about mastering our senses instead of letting them run the show. It makes me think about all the ways we struggle with sensory control in today's world. Social media, food, technology. It's a constant battle.
It is. But by becoming more aware, practicing mindfulness, and remembering that tortoise wisdom, we can gradually gain control over our senses and direct our energy toward things that truly nourish us.
So we've talked about attachment, but you also mentioned that the Bhagavad Gita encourages us to go beyond detachment.
Right.
What's the difference there, and why does it matter?
Well, attachment keeps us bound to the material world. It's a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction.
Right.
Detachment, on the other hand, can lead to isolation and apathy. The sweet spot is to be free from both, acting out of love and service, not selfish desires or fear.
I can really relate to that. I've definitely tried to detach from things in my life, and it often just ended up making me more frustrated and unhappy.
Right. True freedom comes not from forcing ourselves to detach, but from finding something more fulfilling to attach to. It's about shifting our focus from the temporary to the eternal, from the material to the spiritual.
Okay, I'm following you. So what does true inner peace look like according to the Bhagavad Gita? How do we know if we're on the right track?
The lecture describes someone in a state of samadhi, which is deep meditative absorption, as being free from attachment, fear, and anger. They're undisturbed by the ups and downs of life, finding satisfaction within themselves, not depending on external things for happiness.
That sounds amazing, like a vast, calm ocean, not swayed by the storms around it. What an inspiring goal to strive for.
It is. And remember, the Bhagavad Gita teaches that even a little progress on this path can have a huge impact on our lives. It can even free us from our greatest fear.
Wait, what is that fear?
We'll uncover that and explore some practical steps for cultivating this inner peace in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, I'm hooked. You left us hanging with that cliffhanger about the greatest fear we can overcome through spiritual progress. I'm dying to know what it is.
Well, the Bhagavad Gita says it's the fear of death.
Okay.
And not just physical death, but the fear of losing everything we identify with, our bodies, our possessions, our relationships. But the text reminds us that these things are all temporary. The only true death, it argues, is the death of the soul, which is impossible.
So you're saying by connecting with our eternal nature, we transcend that fear of loss. That makes sense, but it's easier said than done.
Right, it's a process. But the Bhagavad Gita provides a roadmap, a set of practices and principles that can guide us. And one of the most important is offering the fruits of our actions to the divine.
Ah, yes, the factory analogy. We're the workers, God is the owner, and we offer the results of our labor back to the source.
Exactly. And by doing that, we free ourselves from the burden of ego and attachment. We don't feel the need to control everything, to grasp and cling to temporary pleasures. We surrender to something bigger, trusting that everything is unfolding as it should.
So it's like instead of desperately clinging to the oars, we let go and allow the current to carry us.
That's a great way to put it. And as we surrender, we start to experience a shift in consciousness. We become more present, more aware, more tuned in to the subtle energies that connect us to everything around us.
That sounds pretty blissful. Is that what it feels like to be free from that fear of death you were talking about?
It's definitely a part of it. And it's not some unattainable state reserved for monks or mystics. It's available to anyone who's willing to do the work, to cultivate mindfulness, detachment, and devotion.
This reminds me of those signs of true peace we talked about earlier, being free from attachment, fear, and anger, and finding satisfaction from within. It's like you're describing someone who has truly mastered their inner world.
Exactly. They become like that calm ocean, no longer tossed around by the storms of life.
One thing I'm still curious about is that idea of a spiritually advanced person being neither attached nor detached. It's like they've found this middle path, a way to be in the world without getting tangled up in all the drama.
Right. They understand that their true self lies beyond the material realm, but they also recognize the importance of fulfilling their purpose in this life, their dharma. They act with clarity and compassion, not for personal gain or recognition.
So it's not about renouncing the world and becoming some kind of emotionless hermit.
Not at all. It's about finding balance, harmony between our inner and outer worlds. It's about bringing a sense of peace and purpose to everything we do.
Okay, this is all starting to click for me. But if I'm being honest, I'm still a bit intimidated by the idea of controlling my senses. I mean, I can barely resist that second cookie after dinner, let alone detach completely from the allure of all the delicious food in the world.
Remember that tortoise analogy? It's not about becoming perfect overnight. It's about gradual progress. Start with small steps. Notice the urges and cravings that come up. Instead of mindlessly giving in, take a pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this really serving me? Is that what's best for me right now?
So it's like building a muscle. The more we practice mindfulness and self-control, the stronger we become.
Exactly. And as that inner resolve strengthens, we become less influenced by external temptations. We begin to find a deeper sense of satisfaction in simpler things, connecting with nature, serving others, pursuing our passions.
This makes me think about how the lecture said that nighttime for a materialist is daytime for a spiritualist.
Yeah.
It's like they're living in completely different realities.
It's true. The materialist is focused on external gratification, chasing those fleeting pleasures that ultimately leave them feeling empty. The spiritualist, on the other hand, has discovered a source of joy that's independent of outside circumstances. They found peace and contentment within.
It's like the difference between chasing a mirage and stumbling upon a hidden oasis, right?
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
But this brings up another question. If this inner peace is so accessible, why aren't more people experiencing it? Why are we still so caught up in this cycle of craving and dissatisfaction?
Right, it's a good question.
It comes down to what the lecture calls mental concoction. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness comes from outside ourselves, from getting more stuff, achieving a certain status, or indulging our senses.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with that more is better mentality.
Right. And it takes courage to question that conditioning, to step off the treadmill of consumerism and look within for true fulfillment.
So it's not just about changing our habits, it's about changing our whole mindset, our way of relating to the world.
It's a complete paradigm shift, a profound transformation of consciousness. And the Bhagavad Gita offers the tools and guidance to navigate this shift. It encourages us to cultivate detachment, self-awareness, and devotion, to engage in spiritual practices that connect us to our true nature, to live a life aligned with our Dharma.
It's like we've been handed this ancient treasure map, and now it's up to us to follow the clues and embark on the adventure of a lifetime.
Exactly. And the rewards of this adventure are immeasurable. Peace, joy, freedom, and a deep sense of connection to something much greater than ourselves.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But I also have to admit, this whole idea of engaging all of my senses in the service of Krishna, it's still a bit of a mystery to me. What does that actually look like in everyday life?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so let's unpack this idea of engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. It sounds a bit mystical, to be honest. Like, how do I connect with the divine through taste, for example?
It's about shifting our perspective. Think of each sense perception as a chance for mindfulness. Gratitude and recognizing the divine presence in everything. Let's say you're enjoying a delicious meal. Instead of just, gobbling it down, really savor the flavors, the textures, the way it nourishes your body. Think about the effort that went into preparing it, the earth that produced the ingredients, the sun that ripened the fruits and vegetables. See the meal as a gift, a blessing, an expression of abundance.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. It's like turning the act of eating into a spiritual practice.
Exactly. And it applies to all our senses. Imagine watching a beautiful sunset. Instead of just grabbing your phone for a quick pic, really soak it in. Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. Appreciate the vibrant colors painting the sky, the vastness of the horizon. It's about recognizing the beauty and artistry of creation, that sense of awe and wonder that connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so it's about bringing intention and awareness to our everyday experiences, transforming them into opportunities to connect with something sacred.
You got it. And it can extend to everything we do. When we listen to music, we can appreciate the harmony, the rhythm, and see it as a reflection of the creative energy that flows through all things. Even the scent of flowers can become an offering, a symbol of devotion. It's about finding that spark of the divine in everything around us.
It's like that saying, stop and smell the roses, but with a deeper layer of meaning. It's not just about appreciating beauty, it's about recognizing the divine presence within that beauty.
Beautifully said. And when we engage our senses in this way, our focus shifts from ego to soul, from the material world to something more spiritual. It's like we're opening ourselves up to a richer experience of life, a deeper sense of meaning and purpose.
It's like tuning into a different frequency, right? A more subtle vibration that was always there, but we just weren't aware of it.
Exactly. And as we cultivate that awareness, we become more receptive to a deeper kind of knowing, that inner wisdom or intuition that guides us toward what's truly best for us.
This reminds me of Buddha yoga, the yoga of intelligence. Is it through this heightened awareness, this connection to something bigger, that we gain the clarity to act in alignment with our Dharma?
That's the heart of it. Buddha yoga isn't just about intellectual understanding. It's about developing a deep, intuitive knowing, a sense of right action that comes from a place of connection with the divine.
So it's not about blindly following rules or dogmas, it's about tuning into that inner wisdom, that still small voice within.
Precisely. And that voice becomes clearer as we purify our minds and hearts through spiritual practice. The Bhagavad Gita offers various techniques for this: meditation, chanting, selfless service, and cultivating qualities like humility, compassion, and gratitude. It's an ongoing process.
It's like we're polishing a mirror, right? Removing the dust and grime that obscures our true nature so our inner light can shine through.
What a beautiful analogy. And as we refine our perception, we start to see the world differently. We recognize the interconnectedness of everything, that divine spark within every being. We move beyond judgment and separation and start to see unity and love as the guiding principles of life.
That makes me think about the lecture's point about a spiritually advanced person seeing all beings with equal vision, whether it's a powerful elephant or a stray dog.
It's a powerful reminder that we are not defined by our physical form, social status, or any external label. We are all souls on a journey back to the source.
So it's not about denying our individuality, it's about recognizing our shared humanity, our common ground as spiritual beings.
Exactly. And when we embrace this perspective, compassion and kindness flow naturally. We start to see the world as a beautiful tapestry of diverse expressions of the divine.
I love that. This is all so inspiring. But if I'm being honest, I'm still grappling with this idea of offering all the fruits of my actions back to the divine. It just feels so counterintuitive to our human desire for achievement and success.
It's important to remember that the Bhagavad Gita isn't advocating for passivity or inaction. It encourages us to engage in the world, to use our gifts and talents to make a positive impact, but to do it with a detached mindset.
So it's not about giving up our goals, it's about shifting our motivation, our underlying intention.
Exactly. Instead of being driven by ego or the need for personal gain, we act out of love, service, and a higher purpose. We become instruments of the divine will, allowing our actions to flow from a place of surrender and trust.
It reminds me of those people who dedicate their lives to serving others, expecting nothing in return. They seem to radiate this peace and joy that transcends any material reward.
They're living embodiments of these principles. They've recognized that true fulfillment comes not from what we take, but from what we give.
Yeah, this whole conversation is really making me rethink my priorities and how I define success.
That's the power of the Bhagavad Gita. It awakens us to a deeper understanding of ourselves, our purpose, and our relationship to the divine. It's a guidebook for living a more meaningful life, a life filled with peace, joy, and service.
I'm so grateful for this deep dive. It's given me a lot to ponder and explore.
It's been a pleasure sharing this with you. Remember, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing. Keep exploring, questioning, and seeking. You'll continue to uncover hidden treasures within the Bhagavad Gita and within yourself.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking like inner oasis of peace and joy.